Folks, welcome back. This is episode number 3 of the Get Wired podcast. And the whole purpose of this podcast is actually like a work with me session. And if you are joining and you haven't caught up, essentially what this is with the new e-waste service that I've taken over as a bit of a managed service, we get a whole lot of wire. Like you probably can't really see it here, but this is a big tub, this is a big tub here, and then I've got a bin over here that I put the wire into. But part of that, I need to process that wire. It's actually a passive opportunity that I get by doing this. And you know, the wire can sell anywhere between $3 to $7 a kilo, depending if you're stripped it and all these different things. But all we're doing is we're just cutting off plugs and then putting it into the respective bins, just really to accumulate weight over a long period of time. But with that, I figured, well, I don't want to spend, heaps of time just doing that and not, it's not really high value. I mean, it is valuable. We make money from it, but it's going to take a little bit of time to actually cash in on that. But I figured, why not create an opportunity where we can sit down, do some work together, and I'll chat with you talking about probably just all things business, maybe a bit of reselling, and just stuff that's on my mind, but I think that's super relevant for you and me playing back some of my own things that I'm working through or whatever, but purely focused on whether it's reselling or business, especially on eBay, but just thinking outside of the box a little bit. So I appreciate all the support so far. It's been really great. We'll probably try and keep this to, look, I'll try and do the hour. If not, you'll see how long it is in the title anyway. So you know if this is a good episode to listen to while you do some listings or do some photos, or maybe you're, processing inventory. I don't know, whatever you're doing. I had Jove, the Profit First reseller. Is it Profit First? Yeah, the Profit First reseller. He said he's been listening to this while cleaning the house. So I appreciate it, man. I really do. So what we're doing here is essentially, I'm just pulling out cable. I've got to clip off the clips, just like that, boom. Then I take the other end of it, which this one was a Van example because it's right at the bottom, and clip that one off as well. These go into little tubs, and then that goes into the big tub. That's essentially it. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to do this while I chat to you guys. And today's topic, actually, there's 2 topics that I kind of want to talk about. Is the first one being continuous improvement, and the second one being value chain. And so interesting topics. For me, continuous improvement has been a huge component of being able to build this business and helping make it be successful. And one thing I will reiterate is that, here when we talk about success, when I'm talking about success, that's not my idea of success for you. Success is going to be determined by your own definition. What does success look like for you? It might be you want to earn a certain amount of money per week. It might be, I'm talking purely business at this point. It might be that you want to be able to have the business pay for school fees for your kids. You might want to, all these different things. So success is going to be very different for everyone, and you get to define it. That's the beauty of it. For me, what does success look like? Well, success for me looks like that this business is going to change my life, but it's going to help me enjoy my lifestyle that I've got. Now, I left the 9 to 5 years ago. I was a IT consultant. Well, I was working in IT consulting, but I was a project manager. And, I loved that job. And really good job, really rewarding. However, during the pandemic, I realized that with my dreams to have my own business, that was never going to come a reality if I just kept working for someone else. And, the beauty of it was like the only way to figure out what that was going to look like was I was going to have to just start. I was going to have to just do it, which we kind of spoke about in episode 1. And that was taking a big leap. But one of the things that I learned while I was working there is the importance of CI, continuous improvement. And when I first started this business, now knowing what success potentially looks like, I knew that I had to kind of figure out how to continue to do better. And when I say do better, is like do my processes better, how I process inventory, how I source inventory, how I list inventory, how I photo inventory, all these different things. Like all those things require attention and specific to understanding of how do you do it. And, when it comes to continuous improvement, and I've actually created a continuous improvement tracker that I actually shared with you guys probably a couple of years ago when I was first getting into it. And basically what I was documenting of basically tracking these in real detail. So like when we were doing the photos for 30 minutes or an hour, how much did we achieve? What were the friction points? What went well? What didn't go well? And then we documented it in a line item on a Google Sheet. And then after that, we would then go look at, the feedback, what worked well, what didn't work well. And then we go quickly apply those things for the next time. then we would do the next time and we would document it again. And from that, we were able to quickly identify, okay, well, what's working, what's not working, what do we need to change, and how do we quickly take action and get this better? And that continuous improvement is super key for you to be able to do anything. And I was actually just talking about this literally just before I started this episode in my weekly vlog with the e-ways. Like I love taking over and doing this, even though there's a lot of it which I'm just like learning as I go, because it's the beautiful chance to be able to learn and thrive and think of new ways of doing things. That's probably one aspect that I love about building a business. You're continuously learning. If you want to be, if you're not willing to continuously learn, then of course it's going to be a bit of a struggle. But the beauty of it is when you're open to being vulnerable to learn and vulnerable to have to figure it out, you can discover some great things. And I've spoken about this heaps of times, and I think I spoke about this last time, that the amount of people that told me that I cannot do this. This is not feasible, especially with clothing, that it's just not worth it, right? And when I break that down, to me it either comes down, it's not worth it for them, which is fair enough, because everyone's doing this typically for different reasons. They haven't been able to, bit of a yawn, sorry, good grief. Cheeky coffee. They haven't been able to work out how to do it for themselves. And again, based on their measurements of success, they haven't been able to figure that out. And that's a them problem and not a you problem. So that's something that I've had to really just, adjust my mindset to. But, that's easier said than done too. But what I'm saying here is like, when you're trying to figure all these things out and people say it's not worth it, you have the choice to be able to say, okay, how do I make this better? How do I improve on this? And how do I then get, the outcomes that I'm looking for, as well as the enjoyment and, creating extra stress for yourself and always different things. Because if you're going to be willing to improve, you have to be willing to adjust. That's the beauty of it. It's literally constant change. And you guys have, if you've been watching my, vlogs and stuff, you'll see that I am very fluid, I'm very dynamic, I'm happy to adjust and change as needed if it's going to get me closer to where I want to be. And that's why continuous improvement is super key. Now, this doesn't apply to business, this applies to anything in life. If you want to start running, well, you have to start running and then get a little bit better, work out what was good. Maybe you realize your form wasn't that good, so you have to change your form. I apologize if you're coming here for a work with me session and all you're hearing is me yawning. I apologize. It is 7:33 in the morning at the moment. I've been up since 5 o'clock. I did half my listings already, and then I had to take Carla to the train station, and then I've come here. So I'm just, because I'm thinking, I'm just waking up. So I do apologize. What was I saying? Yeah. So the importance of continuous improvement enables you to really thrive invisibly, because, well, not invisibly, but intentionally invisibly. And what do I mean by that is, a lot of the time when you go do something, right? So like I'm doing this, and let's say I didn't document anything. Let's say I didn't take notes of how I did it. But mentally and subconsciously, my brain is learning, okay, it's wired for how. Oh, okay, so this is how to do this. You cut it that way, and okay, so I need to do this. All right. And then you naturally just learn that out. Whereas the next time you do it, you're going to have these muscle memories in your head, mental muscle memory, and it's going to be like, oh yeah, this is how you do it. So naturally, but then you also remember, oh, actually, no, last time I did it this way, that didn't work, so I need to use this different tool instead, right? So all of a sudden, you're naturally already changing the way you do things, right? And that in itself is continuous improvement. The difference with what I'm tracking is you're intentionally tracking and seeing that progress you're making, all the friction points that arise, and then how do you handle them, how do you mitigate them, how do you make them better, and all those different things. So that's really the difference of intention there. And I think it's super important with whatever you're doing is just, I mean, you can probably look it up. You can ask ChatGPT of like, what is a basic CI tracker? If not, if I remember, I'll put one in the description below that I've used. That's been really good for me. But, it's going to be slightly different for everyone, depending on what you're tracking or whatever. But now for me, they were a game changer. It's really important that you come into, when you're building a business or going on a mission to be a better version of yourself, or whatever it is, self-discovery, all these different things, you really want to make sure you're giving yourself, you're setting yourself up to succeed by giving yourself the ability to track what's working, what's not working, and how do we continue to fix those friction points. And that's the key thing. When you find something that isn't working, how are you getting on top of that? How are you mitigating that? And how are you actually, fixing it? Because if you don't do anything about it, well, then next time you do it, you're probably going to get the same results. And, it's really important to then go through this process, do it a few times, and then we can start to understand what needs to change, what doesn't need to change. Is it a user issue? Is it a software issue? Is it a environment issue? All these different things, right? So that's why you've got to look at it from those different perspectives, because there's going to be multiple factors that come into play when we're trying to improve. And sometimes it's not always what we expect. Sometimes it's the last thing we expect of what's going wrong. And that's why tracking it helps you, really break that down a little bit better and probe it and challenge it and bring it to life in the right way of, okay, we need to change this, we need to fix this. So yeah, that's been a really, really key thing to me. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, of how you've managed that maybe in the past or how you do that now. And, it's the beauty of, I think I spoke about this enough for this one, the beauty of all of this when you're doing something on your own with your own intention, you building out your own dreams and goals and ambitions, like that's beautiful in itself, because you're not really dictated by anyone else but yourself. And that's why I'm not here to tell you how to run your business. I'm not here to tell you how to resell. I'm not here to tell you how to be successful on eBay, but I'm really just here sharing my journey and the things that have been working for me. And if you can apply that for yourself, well then happy days, because we both win. But if you're just going to try and copy and paste someone else, long term, I don't think that makes sense, because you're never going to be doing the same underlying reason why they're doing it, right? And at the end of the day, you want to be doing this for the right reasons, which is for you, and the right reasons for you. And once you can do that and separate yourself and find your, where you like to thrive and all those things, you will thrive. That's the way it works. And continuous improvement has a huge component of that. And continuous improvement does never end. That's why it's continuous improvement. As you take on more things, you have to discover, here we are doing the e-waste. This is stuff that we weren't really doing in this detail. And even at the moment, I'm at entry level, we get a lot of, phones and electronics. We don't repair them. We sell them to other businesses for repair. But a way to then continuously improve is to elevate my ASP by learning how to process them, repair them, refurbish them, and then that would take us to that next level. And for me, that's been super important, because it's not about doing it instantly, but it is about, having a plan to that. Because, it's costing us money by not repairing them, but we're not losing money necessarily, because we're still making the same amount of money we've always done. It just means that we could spend time to learn more, to be able to, for the same, process, not the same process. We have to do more work to get that result. So it's not as simple as all of a sudden I can just start refurbishing phones, because there's a process for that. There's sometimes, certificates you got to tick off. There's a level of guarantee you have to provide, warranty. So how do you ensure all of that is possible? And that's why it takes a little bit of time. But for now, I'm happy to just process and get things moving, sell it off to a business that already has that, running and operating. And, this is why a lot of big businesses, they literally, this is what they do. They have the same problem that I'm dealing with right now, where it's okay, we have access to something. We know how to do that, but we know there's also more we can do. Is it cheaper for us to figure out how to do it ourselves and then, own it that way? Or is it cheaper to just buy another company and have them do it for us? Or, hire someone that can do it for us. And sometimes that is the best way to do it. And that's why, again, continuous improvement becomes so important, because you have a full 360 view and understanding of okay, well, what's working? Where can we best now make those next level ups, changes to the business, the process, and the people, and the call, the software, and all those things, for us to get the best result possible. I really love that. It's really cool that we can do that and have the opportunity to do that. And again, this applies to anything in life.
And I'd highly challenge you to, put that into your own perspective for your own business, because it'll help you thrive. It'll help you thrive. We don't know what we don't know. So when you actually document it and you write down friction points and you talk about all the things that aren't working, of course you want to cover all the things that are working too, because that's important, because you don't want to get rid of something. But a lot of the time, we keep trying to improve processes, but sometimes we also need to remove from processes, because when you remove from a process, you realize that wasn't really making any difference. Like, is that going to mean we get a sale does it increase our sale chances by 100%? And no. If we remove it, does it lower our chances by 100%? No. Does it lower our chances by 1%? Sure. Then, okay, well, it's probably not worth spending 10 minutes for only 1% increase to sell-through rate. But if you do something and it's going to take you 10 minutes to do, but it's going to increase the sales-through rate by 100%, that's well worth it. So some of those you have to really, you really have to validate and review and look through to really make sure that it's feasible for you. And that's why you have to do that. You have to do it over time. You can't just expect that you're going to get all the results day one. And that's why it is continuous improvement, because it takes time, over time, continuously. So that's my first point around continuous improvement. Again, I asked you the question, do you guys think about that? How you continuously improve? Whether it's business, like personal life, or hobbies, and all those different things? Let me know. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know. All right. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was, this one's an interesting one. It's called the value chain. And this is also something that I learned from when I was working in consulting as well. And that is, what do you add to the value chain in the process of the greater ecosystem that you operate in? And sometimes that value chain can be owned completely by you. Sometimes you're a component of that value chain. Think of like a supply chain. That's essentially what it is. It's like in a supply chain, you have things coming and going, things have to be picked up, things have to be collected, things have to be manufactured, things have to be sourced, things have to be sent, things have to be procured, all these different things, right? Logistically, operationally, all these different things. The value chain is kind of like a sub-layer to that, in which you want to understand, so where in this is the value coming from, or where does the best value come from, and where do we fit into that chain of events? Now, this is speaking purely, specifically in business at this point. It applies to a few other things too. But if you're trying to build a business and you're a reseller, most, look, I'm going to speak pretty generalized here. Most resellers in this day and age, they're doing it for a bit of side income. Part-time, you're already working full-time. It's really just to get some extra dollars. That's cool. Like, I respect that. But the way I look at it, if you wanted to make it something bigger, but we can step away from reselling and we just focus on business. If you're trying to build a business that you want to last for a long period of time, be it with yourself or with, even with a team, it doesn't really matter. You want to figure out what value do you bring to the industry, the environment, and the ecosystem that you operate in. So for me, I operate in pre-owned clothing, I operate in consumer electronics and e-waste, and we also do, collectible and consignment stuff, right? So there's a bit of everything there. But the two main categories, broadly, is consumer electronics and number one being pre-owned clothing. And then you have all the subcategories of that as well. So in all that, what value do you bring? And there's components of this you have to think about of like, well, what value do you bring when you're sourcing? What value do you bring when you're, preparing the item to sell it? What value do you bring when you're posting the item? What value do you bring after sales? And what value do you bring, in a broader perspective of helping, solve problems for like problems that are in your industry, in your, ecosystem. So the way you can look at this is when sourcing, what value are you adding, or what problem are you solving? Well, a good example is the e-waste. At the moment, I'm helping solve a problem for a business which they don't really have a means, they have a means to do it. But at the moment, let's just say, before I exist, they're getting, let's say they're solving a problem for someone else. They're collecting e-waste, and the idea is, to stop it going into the ground and making sure it goes through the right recovery processes and all these different things. But maybe it costs them to do that. But for the other person that they're doing it for, maybe they pay a fee. I don't know, right? But there's this component there between them and their customer. Now, what happens from here is they've got the whole chain of events of like they've got to get it from the customer, they've got to bring it back, then they have to try and make the most out of that experience without having to spend as much money as possible. So if they're paying someone to pick it up, to sort it, to prep it, to move it, to then take it to where it's going to be recycled, or precious metals recovery, all those different things, there's time and effort in all that. But how much money have they made along the way? How much value have they made? They've given value to someone else. They've solved someone else's problem. What value are they getting? Other than the PR of like, oh, look what we've achieved. We've been able to save this much, and recovered this much precious metals, or what. So it's a good story feel kind of thing, right? But in terms of value, in terms of money, maybe they haven't made anything. And for me, that's where, I kind of have come in and said, it's like, hey, look, well, I know you have a problem here because we've spoken about that. Why don't I do this for you? It saves you money, saves you time, and I can potentially make you more money, right? And in terms of the whole chain of events that happen, all we've done is we've added a step at no extra cost for them, but they actually make more money. So if anything, it might add, probably actually doesn't even add more time, because I'm doing it instead of someone else. It's just another step that happens. And by doing that, they're able to find more value for them. I'm able to provide that value. They make more money. They save their time. I make money. And I'm able to learn, and I'm able to, get all this stock. It's not for free. I mean, it's free up front, but I have to pay them afterwards. And everyone's happy in that sense. And we're also reducing waste, because we're going through the process of like, well, what can be, recycled, what can be resold, what can be processed, and also, is there other businesses that maybe can use this before it just goes straight to recovery, right? And I think this is where it's so important that when you're building your business, that you think about, well, where do you fit in that value chain, right? So that's in the sourcing, but like even think about, where you're now delivering to customers in terms of photos, into listings, into what you're providing. That's the value add. Like, what value are you bringing? Are you just bringing, cheap goods and you haven't quality checked them? Or are you making sure you only meet a certain quality so that when customers buy, they're getting the best experience they possibly can get? And that's part of a value chain. And that value chain also falls onto eBay as well. eBay has to provide a great platform for them to be able to experience all this. And that's sometimes out of your control. But again, that's the environment and ecosystem we operate in. So how do you leverage that? By using their platform, how do you then elevate, the value that the customer's getting? And it's just something that I think a lot of people don't really think about. We just jump in straight into business. Okay, I can sell DVDs for really cheap. Purchase DVDs really cheap, and I can sell them for maybe $10. I'm going to go do that. And that's easy, right? But sometimes there's easier solutions, but we just have to spend a little bit of time thinking about it. And when I say easier, it might mean it requires more effort, but in the longer run, it becomes a longer term easy solution, because it just becomes, what do you call it? It's kind of like, it's just harmonized, right? It becomes a nice flow of events. Things are happening, things are working. You know what to do, they know what to do, everyone knows what to do. All the parts of the puzzle are falling into the correct part of the puzzle, the pieces are, and it just flows and it just works. And that's what I'm trying to create and help show that, well, by doing this, why it's better that you do it this way, and how I can offer that solution for you and provide such value. Now, this is going to be different for everyone, and it sometimes can be quite hard to interpret, but I actually learned a lot of this in a new perspective when I was at Retail Fest last. So I'm going there this year. If you're going to Retail Fest, let me know. Or if you've been to Retail Fest, let me know. But for me, a lot of these businesses are solving problems for other businesses. Right? If you go listen to some of the books about, how do you build great product, how do you build great services, and all these different things. It talks about, you want to go where the money is. And Alex Hormozy talks about this. If don't sell to the poor, sell to the rich, sell solutions to the rich. Because one, they've got money to spend it. But the other thing is you want to sell it to people that have a problem. If their problem requires a fix, what is that problem worth to them to fix? And that's what it is. We all want to be helping each other achieve a common set of goals, a common set of, KPIs and ambitions. And a lot of that comes down to money. Like, let's be frank, most people, that's really what they're trying to achieve. But, some people are going for a certain, status of like, maybe the number one this in the world, or we've processed the most textiles in the world, or look how much waste we've saved from landfill, or, all these different things. It's going to be different for everyone and every entity, and that's okay. That's the whole purpose of it. So how do you help people achieve their goals? Right. If people want to help me achieve my goals, they can reach out and say, hey, look, I can do this for you. You can do this for me. We're both going to win. Therefore, why don't we do this together, right? And I've had that happen, and now that's how I've built some of the great relationships of our business, because we're adding value to other people. Like it's not rocket science, but it can get a little bit confronting. It can get a little bit overwhelming, sometimes a bit scary as well, because you're dealing with the unknowns of people, and I get it. People are scary. People are scary, right? But it's all about it. It's all about it. You got to get out there and continuously learn how to interact with other people and build that value chain. It's taken me 5 years to get here, right? Doing this email stuff has taken 5 years to get to this position. But, sometimes things go quicker, sometimes things take longer than we expect. And sometimes we don't even know this is where we're going to end up, right? Like, you just don't know. But if you have somewhat of a plan and understanding of what you're trying to achieve, it helps you then, move your direction, there. And that's what you want in the long run. You want to be able to move your direction to where you want to be going. It seems pretty simple, really. You'd be surprised. A lot of this stuff isn't as simple as it seems. Right, we're coming to a wrap up here. I'm going to kick this to 30 minutes because I want to get working on a few other things. But I think it was a great topic. That was what's on my head. And I think it's something relevant to be able to share with you guys. And plus, I wanted to start processing more of this wire, but it's just a quick 30-minute session. Again, I'm trying to use a process rather than a sit down and just do it all day. Eventually, we might move to doing some live streams. We might move to doing this so we can interact together at the same time. But it really depends what day that is and how my week's going. And I'm just really finding mornings are the best time to get this done, so I can do it in advance. And then I can upload it a little bit later, and you guys have some content, have something to listen to, and then you can go out and work with me. You can get work done as well while I'm doing this, and I think that's important. All right, so appreciate you. If you enjoyed this, please let me know. Leave a comment down below if there's some topics you think would be cool to talk about. We're trying to keep it really narrowed to business, not really trying to focus on questions as such, but more so topics of conversation. So appreciate you being here. We'll do it again soon enough, and thank you for working with me. I hope you got some stuff done. Let me know down in the comments, what did you get done? What were you doing while listening to this? And we're back here doing it all again soon enough. Ciao.